Hello everyone, welcome to Day 3 at the United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues. My name is Les Malzer with the National Congress of Australia's First Peoples. We're going to tell you a little bit about the events for today. My message is about the side event that was held today, organised by Maori delegates from New Zealand, from the University of Waikato, where they talked about their development of rights, particularly in relation to their land rights and the Treaty of Waitangi and so on, and how that has progressed. Another speaker then talked about similar situations in Canada, how they're progressing with issues of self-determination and so on. And I was the third speaker talking about the Australian situation, about how we're progressing on our rights to land, our rights to development and so on. In my presentation, it was not a lot of time, it was only 10 minutes. I think I actually took 15 minutes, but I talked about the modern history from the time of the Northern Territory Land Rights Act, which I said contains much of the principles that are in the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. But the national land rights legislation that was supposed to follow on with those principles didn't happen in the 1980s, and then 6 years later the High Court came out with a decision that we had native title. That is the first decision ever in Australia, or first recognition that the first peoples, Aboriginal and Torres Strait peoples, had pre-existing rights, and that was the significance of the Mabo decision. And I went on to explain that the Mabo decision only held as being viable and continuing to our rights in modern times to land because of the Race Discrimination Act. If we didn't have the Racial Discrimination Act, the courts could very well have ruled that all the rights we have were extinguished by the government, by legislation, by freehold title and so on. So it was that prevention against discrimination that made the courts rule that native title continues to exist, and it can't be extinguished unless the government has a deliberate intention to do so, and if they have a deliberate intention to do so, then they have to ensure that the rights of Indigenous peoples to land is not treated any differently from anybody else's rights to land. So it was an interesting discussion, and we had people from Australia as well as all the other countries around the world present, and we talked later on that perhaps we should try and do more on this at the next permanent forum in 2015. I'd like to hand over now to Kiali Lee, who's going to talk to us about the Pacific Caucus.
Pleased to do an overview on the Pacific Caucus. And as Les said, my name is Kiali Gora. I think the idea of the Pacific Caucus coming together from Indigenous peoples and leaders from the Pacific, which would include Polynesia, Melanesia, and Micronesia. And basically on Wednesday we had an opportunity to really kind of sort out our work and organize the work, which would include a discussion on consensus, an opportunity to plan out who's going to be drafting various interventions, and also to sign up on speaker lists. The caucus is also planning different social events so that we can continue our networking. And I really think that the caucus is really picking up some momentum now on this Wednesday to really ensure that our work is clear, it's substantive, and we represent the Pacific Caucus with some level of distinction and excellence.
And we just have to get used to the early morning starts, you know.
Starting at 9 o'clock
makes
in
it
the
a long
morning,
day.
absolutely.
Yes.
Hello, I'm Justin Mohammed. I'm the chairperson of the National Aboriginal Community Child Health Organisation, and tonight we went to the Australian mission, which was hosted by the Ambassador Gary Quinlan, who hosted the Australian delegation, and over a few drinks, some nibblies and some speeches, and it was a great time because Gary and his staff were there, and we heard what the Australian Embassy and how they work over here, and talking to some of our local Australians who live in New York is always a great thing for us as visitors to this city. We also, on the night, we had a guest appearance from Black Cockatoo, which is led by Sean Trilborough from Australia, and they sang, and so it was made a lot of us who are a little bit homesick feel at home, and it was just good to hear from obviously the ambassador and responses from different people, and the conversation, which was all about our business over here, how the Australian Embassy is working with the UN and how that relates then back home to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, which we're all over here representing.
So that represents day 3 at the Permanent Forum. It's been pretty foggy outside and cool, so there's not much excitement happening outside of the buildings, but hopefully by the weekend we'll get some sunny weather. Thank you. See you next day.